विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ नमः श्रीशङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। Verse 29. ते पराग्दर्शिनः प्रत्यक तत्त्वबोधविवर्जिताः कुर्वते कर्मभोगाय कर्म कर्तुं च भुञ्जते। So we have completed, we are in the process of description of a samsara. I mean, it has started from verse number 15 up to verse number 32. So we are in the process of, the description of this, and we have completed the description of creation. And definitely that description, in which we have seen, so we have also seen in this that the Brahman along with the Prakriti, which is twofold, and manifest as a Ishvara and Jiva, Prajna, and then definitely it further identifies, and then ultimately becomes a Virat Purusha, Vaishvanara and Vishwa. So this is, and then sense objects are also created for the Vishwa, for his needs. So for his needs, all the sense objects are also created. And so how from subtle elements, the Prakriti, which is Tamoguna Prakriti, basically people are coming later. So Rajah Pradhana Prakriti, Brahman identifies with Rajah Pradhana Prakriti or Avidya or Karana Shariram, etc. and becomes Jiva. Brahman identifies with Sattva Pradhana Prakriti and Vishuddha Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, and then he becomes Ishvara, Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. And Ishvara has, he has two Prakritis. Tamah Pradhana Prakriti also along with him. So Brahman identified with Tamah Pradhana Prakriti and definitely becomes a material cause. Brahman identified with Sattva Pradhana Prakriti becomes Sarvajna Sarvashaktiman, becomes Nimitta Karanam. So all this Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam, material cause, efficient cause. Ishvara alone is the material cause and efficient cause through the Prakriti, two types of Prakriti. And while Rajah Pradhana Prakriti, Brahman identifies with Rajah Pradhana Prakriti and becomes Jiva. And then Jiva also identifies with subtle elements which are born of the Tamah Pradhana Prakriti of Ishvara. And from that the five subtle elements are born. From there the subtle body has been created. Then Jiva, not only with the Karana Shariram, identifies with the Sukshma Shariram also. And he is called Tejasa. Same way, well, from the subtle elements, all the subtle bodies are born. And so Ishvara also, who was just identified with the Prakriti, Tamah Pradhana Prakriti is called Ishvara. Well, when Tamah Pradhana Prakriti manifests into all subtle bodies, he identified with all subtle bodies. Jiva identified with a given subtle body. And therefore, because that subtle body is definitely born of his Sanchita. So because the Karana Sharim is Sanchita, so well, he has got a specific subtle body. Ishvara has no karma at all, and therefore Ishvara has no Sanchita. He identifies with all the subtle bodies, and he is called Hiranyagarbha. And then, well, then Ishvara, well, again he created all gross bodies through Panchikaran. We have seen that fivefold grossification. And Ishvara identifies with basically Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha identifies with all subtle bodies and called Vaishvanara or Virat Purusha. And Jiva also identifies with a given subtle physical body as per his karma. And therefore he is called Vishwa. And and sense objects are also created in order to experience pleasure and pain. So Ishvara created even sense objects also. Everything we have seen. So this is how the things are. So Vaishvanara and Vishwa associated with the Sthula Upadhi. Hiranyagarbha and Taijasa associated with Sukshma Upadhi. So, it is Prapanchana Sharira only, but we say like this. And then Ishvara and Prajna basically associate with the Karana Upadhi. With this, the creation is over. So, from verse number 18 to 28, so this all description is of this creation. And now, all confused activity starts because Vishwa is now full-fledged Jiva. I have told you yesterday. So it is totally identified with both the Shariram, all the three Shariram rather. Karana Shariram, Sukshma Shariram and Sthula Shariram. So Jiva is a bloated and he definitely experiences varieties of the pleasure and pain remaining in this given upadhi, and definitely that is how now the samsara starts. So basically the samsara is not for this Vaishvanara, Hiranyagarbha or a Virat Purusha, Ishvara, and Vishwa, Tejas and Prajna definitely has a samsara because of this ajnana. So this is dealt now. So verse 29, it says the parag darshinaha pratyak tattva bodha vivarjitaha, etc., etc. So Jiva basically is Rajah Pradhana Prakriti, Rajah Prakriti Pradhanaha. So it is identified with that Karana Shariram. And so association with the inferior Upadhi. Brahman has an association with the inferior Upadhi, and that's how Jiva is inferior. And he has all these problems of this ignorance, etc. So Deha Abhimana, etc. also is there. And because of Deha Abhimana, there are several problems which are born. So that identification which is born of ignorance and leads to a further problems in the samsara. Ishvara also has a Dehabhimana. We should understand this. When you call Brahman as a Ishvara, means Dehabhimana is there. When you call Brahman as a Hiranyagarbha, Dehabhimana is there. Brahman is called Virat Purusha, means Dehabhimana is there, definitely. Otherwise, why we should call Brahman alone? Why should we call Virat Purusha? So there is a Dehabhimana. But that Dehabhimana is basically, Deha is mithya in Ishvara's eye. Because Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, Brahman associated with Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, Vishuddha Sattva. And so he is Sarvajna. And so he has a knowledge of self also. And therefore, because backed by the wisdom, he has a wisdom, and therefore mithya jnana purvakam abhimanam dosham na bhavati. Mithya jnanam. He knows that Deha is mithya. And therefore identification with the body also is mithya. Exactly like a jnani. Jnani of course gains in several lives like that. And Ishvara has already this knowledge because he is a Sarvajna. And therefore, if you know that this Deha is mithya, then identification with Deha also is mithya. And therefore, I told you in the morning, actor has Abhimana in a beggar. But beggar is mithya. And therefore his Abhimanam, his identification with the beggar also is mithya. So that kind of a Dehabhimana. So there is no Dehabhimana, we should not say. Because basically you have seen the Jnani also looks, he has a Dehabhiman. He talks in the same way. I have gone there and I have, so he is identified with the body and he says, in my mind such and such thought has come, etc., etc. I was thinking, he says, I was thinking like this. Means you are thinking, mind is thinking, or you are thinking. Swamiji doesn't have knowledge. You can't say that. So just as actor, speaks everything as per the role. So he behaves exactly like a beggar. But he knows that the beggar is mithya and my identification with the beggar also is mithya. And he has to identify. If he is not identified, he will not get a next movie, he will not get a role. He will not, he has to sit home. He has to just do japa. Nothing else. He is not fit for anything. He has to identify with a given role. Please understand this. Therefore, and such a identification that people feel that he is really beggar. So people cry. Buckets and buckets of tears will be there in the theater. Buckets and buckets. And therefore, if handkerchiefs are there, you will have to squeeze it. Lots of tears come out. So that is the beauty of the thing. That is the success in the role. That's the success of actor. So that he has to identify, and therefore Ishvara also identifies. Basically, Brahman identifies with all the three shariras. I mean, all the shariras means he has identification with all the Karana Sharira. He has identification with all the subtle bodies. He has identification with all the gross bodies. He never have that kind of a, in his mind that I am at a so and so place and so time. Because he is identified with all gross bodies. So his sense of localization is entirely different. Like the Prime Minister, when he says, he talks about India, then he identifies with 600 crore people. I'm sorry, 120 crore people. I'm sorry. He identifies with 120 crore people. So his I, aham, is placed in every Indian. That's how it is. So his ego is very big ego. And that is how, when ego is small, there are several problems, Ego, anyway, let me not go into that. Anyway, so basically, so Hiranyagarbha and Virat, etc., definitely identification is there. Virat also Sthula Prapancha, or all the Sthula Dehas you can call, he has identification, everything. But Swamiji, Sthula Deha means what? Sthula Deha means this is also Sthula Deha. Please understand. Not that Sthula Deha means this Sthula Deha. When I say Sthula Deha means I cannot exclude this. So Ishvara is identification with this also. Basically that has been created from Tamah Pradhana Prakriti. He has identified with Tamah Pradhana Prakriti. And therefore he has identification with the sense objects, so called. And these gross bodies also. All the gross bodies he has identification. And he has identification with all the subtle bodies. Of course, subtle bodies will be present in certain physical bodies, say appropriate physical body. But I mean, he has identification. So that way he is called Hiranyagarbha, he is called Vaishvanara. That's how Virat. Virat means what? He is everything. That's how everything is he. Whatever inert and the sentient, everything is he. That is how. Anyway, so Ishvara has this knowledge, being a Sattva Pradhana Prakriti identification. But you sometimes say Tamah Pradhana Prakriti and you say Sattva. Both Prakritis are with him. So Ishvara's definition we have already seen. Brahman plus Tamah Pradhana Prakriti plus Sattva Pradhana Prakriti, etc. And then reflection in that both the Prakriti, etc. That's how that reflected consciousness is Ishvara basically. Anyway, so that is enough. We should not do too much of work in that. So, definitely. So, so that's how whenever he takes an avatara, etc., then avatara is not a bondage for him. When he comes in a given form, given physical body, he is not having a bondage. And Jiva's avatara is definitely bonded. That's how they call avataranam. Avataranam avatara. Ava plus tru dhatu is there. And its meaning is to descend. Like exactly two people are there and there is a well. One person is descending slowly with the help of rope, right? He will not be injured even if he goes to the bottom of the well. The other person, suppose from and he falls down in the well. well, definitely he breaks his bones and everything. And therefore, so Jiva falls in the samsara. And that's how definitely he has injury and he has fracture and everything. And Ishvara as though descends. And this is the difference between the two. Anyway, so te, let's start this. Te means they. They means what? These miserable jivas, vishvas, all vishva. Well, pratyak tattva bodha vivarjitaha. Pratyak tattva bodha vivarjitaha. They do not have tattva bodha. Vivarjitaha means devoid of tattva bodha. And devoid of tattva bodha. But what tattva? Pratyak tattva, pratyagatma. They are devoid of their own selves. Why they are devoid? Why they do not have tattva bodha? Because they have not studied tattva bodha. You can say that way. Where they have not studied tattva bodha. Well, it is correct. Well, because the subject matter of tattva bodha text is tattva bodha, right? We have seen that. The subject matter of Indian history is what? Indian history. So subject matter of tattva bodha text is what? Tattva bodha. And so they have not studied. And therefore they do not have atma jnanam. And so they do not know. They do not know their own nature. Why? Why they do not know? Rajah Pradhan Prakriti. Remember that. This is Jiva. Prajna, then Taijasa, and then now he has become Vishwa. Prajna is what? Brahman associated with or identified with Rajah Pradhan Prakriti. And Rajah Pradhan Prakriti means like this. I know myself and I don't know myself. We have seen that. That's a point, that's a big obstacle. That is the misery. You know yourself and you don't know yourself. That is how the situation is. And here said pratyak. Pratyak means inside. Technically it is called, the sakshi basically. This inside is a very difficult thing. So, the sharira traya sakshi. Karana shariram and sukshma shariram and sthula shariram. One who is a sakshi of all the three bodies. And so how, and then that is the pratyagatma. And the bodha, the knowledge of that pratyagatma, or I am the sakshi of all the three shariras. That kind of a bodha, that kind of knowledge is not there. Vivarjitaha, devoid of that knowledge. And therefore that indicates what? He has abhimana with all the three bodies. Means he doesn't consider himself as a witness of all the three bodies. He takes himself as three bodies. That is where the problem starts. That is what the now discussion is, that basically all this problem starts because of this. So he has a dehabhimana. So definitely I don't know my real nature and therefore I consider myself as a very limited being. I am bound because of this identification. And then aham vritti, ahankara arises, and then definitely kartrutvam and bhoktrutvam. And there is a sense of inadequacy also is there. And that inadequate sense of inadequacy will ever remain. It goes and comes back. It goes and comes back. In a moment of joy, the sense of inadequacy goes. And then it again comes back. But we never realize. We feel that if so and so object I will get, then I will be a happy person. And we never think that this is a momentary happiness. But so even we enjoy the things that object just, you lose either a charm of the object or the object goes away, etc., etc. And therefore, whatever the momentary the happiness is there, it proves momentary, and again you feel very, very miserable. Because so sense of inadequacy does not go. And therefore, there should be another solution, but people don't realize it. Anyway, so definitely because of sense of inadequacy. So what happens is dehabhimana leads to sense of inadequacy because dehas are limited, and so telling yourself as just as much as deha you are. And therefore, definitely that's a sense of inadequacy. From there there will be a desire for become adequate, and when definitely from desire to fulfill the desire you will have you will do the karma, etc. And therefore, of course, being a karta. And so this is on the karma leads to punya papa and then punarjanma and etc. etc. So pratyak tattva bodha vivarjitaha is like this. So if you don't know yourself, if you are devoid of the knowledge of the Pratyagatma, I mean that I am a Sakshi of all the three bodies, well, then you are definitely a samsari, identifying with all the three bodies, and basically which and you take yourself as a karta bhokta, does varieties of the karma. So avidya, kama, karma. Avidya, the ignorance is there of the nature, and then kama means this desire, and definitely leads to karma. And then paragdarshinaha. Paragdarshinaha means pratyak means inside, right? The parag means outside. So paragdarshinaha means you become extrovert naturally to fulfill desire. Objects are outside. Objects of happiness, objects of fulfillment are outside, and therefore you turn outward. Your senses turn outward. And therefore, at every level, we should understand, at every level, we have that sense of inadequacy or incompleteness, and to fulfill that, we always look out. Even at intellectual level also, you have that sense. And therefore, in order to, in order to fulfill the intellectual needs, well, definitely you gain so much of knowledge. People read so many books. People keep on reading because they feel a requirement of a knowledge. So sense of incompleteness is there at intellectual level, at emotional level, every level, because identification is there with all the bodies. Therefore, definitely, and you will have that sense of incompleteness at every level. Anyway, so this ignorance, basically gets reinforced because of ultimately this extrovertedness. And ignorance and extrovertedness are mutually cause and effect. Ignorance leads to extrovertedness, and then extrovertedness continue, and then ignorance gets reinforced. So this is how it works. So they support each other and become very vicious circle. This is how it is. So tattva bodha vivarjitaha. And you can see in all this process, well, definitely there is no time for self-inquiry. There is no time for self-inquiry because of extrovertedness, the ignorance has become so well entrenched, and because of ignorance, again, then extrovertedness will be there, and this is how they nourish each other, and the person will never have such a thought that let me come out of this process of, this samsara, let me come out of samsara. He will not have that kind of a thing. So tattva bodha vivarjitaha. Pratyak is is an adjective to tattva bodha vivarjitaha, and darshinaha has an adjective parak. So this is how we have to see. They call it as a hetumat bhava sangati. So this is the word tattva. Vivarjitaha has adjective pratyak, and darshina has adjective parak. Since pratyak tattva means this pratyagatma, and then therefore that bodha vivarjitaha, and that is called hetu. Pratyak tattva bodha vivarjita is called hetu, and the parak darshina is a hetumat, which possesses the hetu. So this is how it goes. Hetu means a cause, basically. Anyway, so they don't know, the truth of themselves, and they turn outward. In fact, we have seen this in Tattva-bodha. Whenever you experience the fullness, that is your nature. Fullness cannot be in the object, etc. Happiness cannot be in the object, but basically this is, and now they are trapped in this vicious cycle. So, and it is self-sustaining cycle. We have to see that. We don't know, it just goes on. Ignorance leads up to, ignorance leads to self-insufficiency, self-uneasiness leads to desire to karma, and from karma to karma phala, and from karma phala again new desires, etc. And all these things continue, and ignorance becomes more and more well entrenched. So kurvate karma bhogaya. So continuous kurvate, they do, te kurvate, they do karma bhogaya, karma phala bhogaya. Say they do continuous restless activity, stress-ridden activity. They become so workaholic and they do karma for the sake of karma phala. Bhoga prapti is a purpose, not chitta shuddhi is a purpose, because the very attitude behind the action is to gain or to have an experience of varieties of the objects. So te bhunjate, so te karma kurvate, te bhunjate, they enjoy the experience. Karma kartum te bhunjate, so they reap karma phala only for doing fresh karma. Karma kartum te bhunjate, so they definitely experience several karma phalas only for doing fresh karma. Karma kartum, for sake of doing karma. And kurvate karma bhogaya, they do various activities in order to enjoy, and they enjoy varieties of the sense objects in order to do more karma. That is how it is. So after one karma phala anubhava, well, no end to bhoga. That is how it is happening. That is how it is happening. Once you taste a given dish, then something else will arise in mind. Now next day she tells also on the dining table itself. She tells, now I want to do so and so experiment. I will do after some time, and then she does that. She will go to YouTube or somewhere, and then she will find some more recipes and what type of things should be mixed together, and that's how. So, well, this is how it goes on. Therefore, Tarla, Dalal, etc. will have a good time. And therefore, she is an author. Some people may be wondering, who is that person? She has published books on varieties of the recipes. Anyway, so karma leads to more, karma phala leads to more action. Karma phala bhoga does not quench, the karma leads to more and more karma. So karta is a karta to basically become a bhokta, and he is a bhokta to become karta. That's what he wants to convey. And then, so the tragedy begins. What is that tragedy? Verse number 30, it says, Nadyam kita iva vartat avartantaramashute vrajanto janmano janma labhante naiva nirvritim. So this is, then after some time what will happen? They're trapped in this karma phala cycle and it has formed an addiction. So it is an addiction kind of a thing. Neither able to continue further nor able to discontinue. So that is how it is. It's like a drug effect, It's like a drug addiction basically. See, workaholic jivas basically, they continue this kind of, this way with the stress. And that is how even we have seen this retired people is a nightmare in a family. That's how they also want that he should go somewhere. Do you have a class or not today? Why are you sitting in the home? They ask also. So retired person, because he wants some activity. And if he cannot find activity, other people in the family also get disturbed, etc. And that is how. So this helplessness on the part of jiva is exemplified here. So he does action in order to enjoy, and he enjoys so that he can do further. And so jiva is helpless, and it has been here example has been given of a worm. Worm is there, in a current. The particular worm flow along with the current, and from one current to other current, whirlpool like thing, In a one whirlpool, they take a round, and then to other whirlpool, and then from that third whirlpool, etc., etc. It's a cyclic current, They go round and round helplessly. By chance, suppose somebody takes it out, and then it is okay. Otherwise, this journey will continue. And so this is how, the jiva is described. The Vishwa, the condition of Vishwa is like this. Just because of the identification with the three bodies, because of this, the Brahman, which is basically free, which is totally free, he has fallen into such a trap. So avartat, ashuhu, avartat, avartam, avartat, from one whirlpool to the another whirlpool. Ashu means frequently he falls in this way. Eva, exactly like that, what? this Vishwas also, these Jivas also, te Janmanaha Janma Vrajantaha. So they go from one Janma to the another Janma. Means they go from, they gain one Sthula Shariram, drop that Sthula Shariram, once Prarabdha is over, then they acquire a new Sthula Shariram. Then also, there also they, have they experience that Prarabdha and then drop that Shariram, then third Shariram, like that it goes on. So they escape from the body, well, at the time of death, but just to acquire a new body. Exactly like that Kita, which is, the worm, which basically falls into the whirlpool or the cyclic current, and from one whirlpool to the second whirlpool, the same situation is there. So, we call it, in Bhajagovindam it is called Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, etc., etc. So, definitely his situation is like this. Nivritim naiva labante. Nivritim means they never get a peace, they never become free, etc. And so verse 31 it says, Sat karma paripakate karuna nidhinodhrutaha prapyati rataruchchayam vishramyanti yatha sukham. Well, if this worm has to escape, only one possibility is that worm himself is very, very feeble and current is very fast and the whirlpool is very powerful. So definitely some compassionate person has to take it out from he has to go into the water and take it out. So Nadyam Kitaha Avartantaram. So Kita means this worm. So definitely he is helpless. Somebody has to help. Of course, worm will not tell thank you, etc. That's a different thing. But if one has done a sufficient punyam, a traveler who is passing by chance, then he rescued it from that water. Same way, Satkarma Paripakat. Here also, in case of worm also, it is Satkarma basically. Fructification of his Punya Karma. So, which worm has done. Not in a worm Shariram. He has done it when he was in a Manusha Shariram. Well, definitely, he must have done some Punya. That is how he was saved by the traveler who was traveling nearby, and he goes into the water and saves him. Same way, and so Udrutaha, Kitaha Udrutaha, well, they were lifted. So, but all worms are not lucky, we know. Therefore, definitely Punya of a worm is there, because of which, this Karuna Nidhina, that some compassionate person goes to the water and takes it out. Here, and the Tira Taruchchayam Prapya, and such a worms basically reach to the shade of the tree on the bank, and Yatha Sukham Vishramyanti. Well, Yatha Sukham Vishramyanti, they get joy, they get a peace, they become free from the fear, etc. Same way, this every jiva also is like a worm, is a helpless. Well, which karma will fructify, we don't know, and definitely we are all the time from one whirlpool to the other whirlpool of this karma phala. And so, and therefore, somebody has to rescue that jiva also. Who will rescue, etc., has been told in verse number 32. The jiva's rescue mission has been told in verse 32. Upadesham avapyaivam acharyat tattvadarshinaha Panchakosha vivekena labhante nirvritim param. In the same way means as in the example of, as in the case of a worm, well, some Karuna Nidhina, some compassionate person who has, because of the Punya Karma of the worm, well, he was saved. Same way, Udrutaha means he was saved. Same way here, this jiva also is like a worm, and he also needs some external help of a person. So definitely, so here of course there is no physical, lifting, etc. Otherwise, Guru becomes a weightlifter. So here, ahetuka daya sindhu. So ahetuka daya sindhu. So well, definitely the Guru also lift this jiva who has fallen into the samsara, etc., ocean, and so he also takes him out. And so ahetuka daya sindhu means basically this is a word used all the time for the person who saves these jivas, the samsaris. And that is means they have a compassion without any expectation. That is called ahetuka daya. There is a daya but not has a hetu. There is no hetu means expectation. So ahetuka daya sindhu, one who is in ocean of compassion, and he doesn't have any expectation. And well, of course, the rescue mission of a worm definitely involves a physical process, but here it is not a physical process, and definitely because we have fallen into the trap of ajnanam and adhyasa, etc., with the three bodies, etc., and therefore the rescue is also in terms of jnana, and so it's a cognitive process. And what is the sadhanam for the jnanam? He is going to talk about shravanam, nididhyasanam, etc. So basically, jnanam will be gained from the source of knowledge, that is pramana. Pramana generates the knowledge, prameya. And then pramana is a shastra, then well, definitely jiva should surrender to the pramana in order to get saved from this samsara ocean. Well, but then pramana will not, the shastra directly does not relieve him, will take him out. And therefore, shastra jnanam takes place through guru only. And therefore, basically the person who is so compassionate, etc., and who is a teacher, well, he will rescue this jiva who is a worm in our case. And this shastra, and he gives the teaching, which is called upadesha. So it has been told here, upadesham avapya. So guru upadesham avapya. Avapya means having received. So having received the teaching of the guru, which will save him from this ocean. And what kind of it having received means what? Well, it's a systematic teaching, basically consistent teaching for a length of time, etc. And they always insist upon that. A consistent study is very much required. Like they always give an example of a building, if when you want to make a building or let's say a hall, then definitely the truck will come, the lorry will come with a lot of bricks and they will put it outside. But the person that, the mason, he will take every brick and arrange systematically, and between two bricks also he will put some cement. So that is how the hall is built. So same way here also, there are methods by which the knowledge is imparted by a teacher. So that's a very systematic and consistent study is there. And Vedanta has got, of course, several teachings, and listening to those teachings, definitely the jiva, which is a worm, who is feeling helpless, will come out of this samsara ocean. So Guru Upadesha is basically rescue mission. But we should understand, ultimately Guru Upadesha means it is based on the Shastra. Shastra definitely is a pramana, and it will generate the jnanam. And that jnanam will remove the notion, misconceptions, that is adhyasa, and that is born of ajnanam. So ajnanam is a main cause, because Brahman associated with the Rajah Pradhana Prakriti, that is avidya. That is how the whole process has started. Otherwise, why should we need all this? So avidya is a main cause, and then because of that he identified with the Karana Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Sthula Shariram, and feeling all the time limited, and a sense of discomfort will be there. That sense of discomfort just does not go. Really. No one is with oneself except Jnani. Really. Jnani, because he accepts himself totally. Atmani eva atmana tushta. Because you cannot accept yourself when you know yourself a limited being, because that's not your nature, and therefore you cannot accept. And so if in your eye or in your awareness, suppose a sense of limitation is there, then definitely you cannot be at rest. Uneasiness will be all the time there. That uneasiness is called samsara, and that makes the person restless all the time. He is restless because of this. And that is how now avartat avartantaram, this karma phala chakkar, and then after enjoying karma phala, and then new desire, and then doing karma, and then again experiencing a karma phala, like that whole it goes on and on. But he doesn't understand that basically all this is due to this ajnanam. He doesn't understand. So in order to remove ajnanam and adhyasa, which is born of ajnanam, well, now to be free from all the misconceptions, and well, ultimately one has to go to the Shastra, which gives you jnana, Jnanam is a virodhi of ajnana. And then, but Shastra will not open for you. They have a key, and that the lock has to be opened. That's by the teacher. And so, through the teaching of the the Shastra. That's how it has been told, avapya upadesham. So avapya means gaining this upadesha, guru upadesha. Well, that's a rescue mission, and then to lift the jiva from the samsara. And what kind of a guru? That also has been told in two words. Acharyat tattvadarshina. Acharyat. So we'll see both the words. So tattvadarshina means basically he tattvadarshina means he has the knowledge, and he is able to impart the knowledge. How he is going to impart, that will be told from the next verse. But tattvadarshina means he has the knowledge and he is able to impart the knowledge. We call in general as a shrotriyam and brahmanishtam. So, acharyat tattvadarshinaha upadesham avapya. So, he must be the acharya. Acharya means what? Well, who can be the guru? Who was a shishya? That's how Pujya Swamiji defines. He himself must have been shishya. You have to go to the teacher who was shishya. That's all. You should never go to a teacher who was never a shishya. Who says that I am a self guru or whatever. I am a guru. I am a guru of all the gurus, and I am guru of course all the shishyas also. And therefore, to such a person you should not go. One who has learned, basically remaining in a guru shishya sampradaya. So basically, one should have a traditional teacher, and who has imparted knowledge, has given the keys how to open the lock of Shastra, and therefore Swamiji always used to tell like this, that he must have been a shishya before. That shishya alone can become a guru, and the jiva is rescued through such a guru, which he has called here as a acharya. Why acharya? He has been called as acharya because achinoti hi shastrartham acharya sthapayatyapi swayam acharate yasmat tasmad acharya kirtyate uchyate. So achinoti hi shastrartham, who himself knows the purport of the entire Shastra, and so he has grasped well the purport of the Shastra. Acharya sthapayatyapi, and he does all this. He does that social activity by which he imparts this knowledge. He does the job of teaching also, and he imparts the values. He imparts, the values, and he imparts this jnanam also, everything. And swayam acharate, and whatever he teaches, well, definitely he is. Whatever he teaches, he is. That's what it means, swayam acharate. And such a acharya, which is called a Sadguru also, well, definitely to such a acharya, from them, acharyat avapya, from such a teacher, upadesham avapya, teaching, by receiving the teaching, well, definitely the jiva can become free from the samsara. So tad vijnanartham gurumeva gachet shrotriyam brahmanishtam. You know very well in Mundaka Upanishad also this is a very popular statement. And how he is going to impart? Well, panchakosha vivekena. So he is going to impart the teaching he is going to use a special method. There is a methodology. That's how one should go to a traditional teacher who knows these prakriyas. And so param nivrutim labhante, when then these jivas, well, definitely gets a absolute peace. What is that absolute peace? Basically videha mukti and jivan mukti. Param nivrutim means param shanti labhante. So definitely by knowledge, that's all. Upadesham, it has been told, therefore there is no other solution. Let's go to now next verse. Annam prano mano buddhihi anandascheti panchate koshastaira vrutasvatma vismritya samsrutim vrajed. And so one more thing I just forgot. So Guru should know how to swim and take out this jiva from the samsara ocean. If Guru doesn't know how to handle this samsari jiva, then these jivas who are samsari convert the guru into samsari, and therefore they should be. I mean, guru should know very clearly the lifting process. Basically, guru should know the lifting process, and if he doesn't know, then shishyas who are very powerful, definitely instead of they are getting lifted up, they will drown the guru in the ocean. Therefore, and such gurus, you definitely they will run away from the Gurukulam. So sometimes it happens. So anyway, this is just by the way to make it feel you light. Anyway, so here now, so verse 32 is over. And so Vidyaranya has concluded Samsara Varnana. Now the process, the methodology of this teaching in which the Guru lift up this jivas, so that has been described. So 15 to 32 I have already told you, that is samsara vidya, samsara varnanam. And if avidya is a cause of samsara, then only solution is a knowledge, and therefore, Vidyaranya indicates that, through the satkarma paripaka, because of the fructification of the punya karma of these jivas, definitely he comes in contact with the teacher, and then teacher imparts the knowledge. And we have seen one prakriya already. You must be knowing avasthatraya prakriya. Avasthatraya viveka we have already done, and we have ascertained the jiva swarupa as a Satchidananda from verse number 3 to verse number 10. We have already done this. Now from verse 32 to 62, he is going to talk about this teaching, in which definitely it's a sadhanam basically. From 33, verse number 33 to 48 is he talks about the Shravanam, in which this prakriya, of course, Panchakosha, Viveka, etc. will come. Then 49 to 53 he will talk about Mananam, and 54 to 62 he will talk about Nididhyasana. So first now Shravanam here in verse number 33. So here Acharya uses a Panchakosha Viveka to reveal that this jiva, he is telling to jiva that you are not a samsari but you are asamsari Brahman, etc. So he will reveal through the Panchakosha Viveka that jiva Brahma Aikyam. And there are 5 koshas. So kosha literally means the sheath, a covering case, as we say, like that, or like envelope. Envelope is called like a kosha. So there are 5 layers of our personality, we call it as a Panchakoshas. And Annamaya means basically anatomical personality. Our physical body itself is called Annamayam because it is born of Annam, sustained by Annam, goes back to Annam, goes back to Prithvi, Annam. Therefore, this Annamaya Kosha is basically physical body. Then second is Pranaha. He will not say Pranamaya and etc. etc. We have to take it that way. Annam means Annamaya Kosha, that is physical body. Then he says Pranaha. Vidyaranya has a very, he puts everything in a metrical form, verses, and therefore he cannot go on description. It is not a description style. So Pranaha means Pranamaya Kosha, and physiological functions basically, and that's a part of our subtle body. Manaha means Manomaya Kosha, emotional personality. Buddhi refers to Vijnanamaya Kosha, it's an intellectual or thinking personality. And Ananda means Anandamaya Kosha. We can call it as a unconscious personality, hidden personality, potential personality, unmanifest personality, etc. etc. So 5 layers of this anatma or human personality is there. But why you call it as a kosha? Basically there are 2 definitions. Vedanta gives a definition which is koshavat achadakatvat kosha. And koshavat achadakatvat kosha means it covers the atma as it were. We have seen that, of course, in Tattvabodha also. So basically this pancha koshas, these 5 layers in our personality, basically this physical body and subtle body, etc., and this causal body, etc., it covers the atma as it were. It really, why do we say that they cover? Because they can't cover actually physically. 5 layers are too limited physically. Body is so limited, it cannot cover Atma. Atma is limitless. So definitely physical body cannot physically cover the Atma. And same way subtle body is much, it cannot also cover the basically physically, the Atma, and not a causal body also. Causal body is ignorance. and that too is very minute, very subtle. It cannot cover this limitless Atma, and therefore definitely it cannot cover, but figuratively covering, we say, by distracting our attention. Well, by distracting our attention, basically, well, Brahman gets distracted because of this 5 layers of personality. So he is obsessed with this 5 personality, lost in this definitely these personalities, and therefore, well, he is called. So that way, the physical body is called kosha. So figuratively, we are calling it as a kosha, but actually, physically, it cannot cover the. So you can understand the person. He's obsessed. Some people are obsessed with the weight. Some people are obsessed with the beauty. Some people are obsessed with the height. Some people are obsessed with the look. And some people are obsessed with certain gender. So this is obsession. A physical body has become so much obsession for the person. And if his weight suppose increased by 1 kg, enough. He runs and runs in the morning. So miles and miles he runs to reduce 1 kg. I mean, this is how it is. All the time seeing how much abdominal fat is there and how much this is there. And in blood also samples every time. They say generally once in a or twice in a year. Maybe I think doctors are there, some of the doctors. But anyway, I am, because mic is in my hand, so I am talking. Anyway, so you should take twice a year or so blood sample and check all this cholesterol and everything. But people are obsessed with that. And literally they become so serious. If something little bit here and there, plus or minus, in a cholesterol level, in a some iron deficiency, that deficiency, hemoglobin, this, that, and some potassium, sodium, and they are so obsessed. So your whole attention is to the physical body. You are limitless, free from all this, but as though physical body has drawn your attention. Kosha, that's all. So figuratively, as though we call it as that, it has covered your vision. Instead of seeing yourself as you are, in reality, well, you are self-revealing consciousness, pratibodha viditam matam. You take yourself as physical body. If you take yourself as a physical body, still there is not a problem. But then whole of your activity in a waking state, my God. And then definitely other things. Pranamaya kosha, see, hunger and thirst. Morning breakfast, they sit around on the dining table and taking breakfast. They discuss what should be the lunch. And when they sit for the lunch, they will discuss about the dinner. And at the time of dinner, they ask also. They ask, a husband asks to a wife, what will you make tomorrow morning for breakfast? And therefore, this pranamaya kosha, this hunger and thirst as though, anyway. And so, all the time, it amazes me all the time. How can people even, let me tell you, this is just between us. Don't think these are the people who are outside. Our own sadhakas, they keep on talking about food. So that's a dangerous thing, I mean. So, and anyway, enough. So then emotional needs are there all the time. All the time. So whole your activity is to derive a certain emotional satisfaction, gratification from the world, from the people, and etc. etc. Vijnanamaya kosha, that's another trip. It's a very, very big ego trip. If you come to know that you know little less in a group discussion, etc., you will decide the next week I will see. And so you will prepare yourself very well. And not that what is required you prepare. You will see something else also in periphery, so that you can quote something and you can present yourself properly. And this is also another trip. And well, definitely, all this, basically all personalities are distracting. So as though they covered the vision of this conscious being. Conscious being should tell that I am consciousness. That's all, because self-revealing. If it has to be revealed through some pramana, then it is different thing. But it has been, I take myself as just 3 bodies or 5 layers of personality. So this is one definition of kosha. And second definition of kosha, Shankaracharya gives is koshavat upalabhyamanatvat upalabdhisthanatvat. Kosha. So basically koshavat upalabhyamanatvat upalabdhisthana. Like sheath, is in which you keep a knife or a sword, a very big cover. So, therefore, if you want to search a knife or a sword, where will you go? Then you will go to that shit in which you have placed. Same way, if you have to search this Brahman or Atma, where will you go? You have to search in the Upadhis itself. Body mind sense complex is like a shit where this Brahman is located. So, Upalabdhi Sthana, where you can recognize, where Brahman is manifested. Where will I know Brahman Swamiji? Where it has manifested. That's all. Where will you know? Where it has manifested. That is why in Taittiriya Upanishad, I think Bhashyakara has said that. What is that? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman Yah Veda Yah Vijanati. One who knows this Satyam Jnanam Brahma, where? Guhayam, in the Buddhi. So where is this limitless Brahman? Where will I come across? Well, where it has manifested, there you can know. And it has manifested in the Buddhi. There it has been told as a Buddhi, but ultimately from Buddhi it has manifested up to the physical body. You know this. And therefore, these are the Upalabdhi Sthana of this Brahman. You know the Brahman as a consciousness where? Not in this. Definitely not in this. You can know it as a I, which has manifested in the Buddhi and later up to the physical body. So, Sada Sarvatopi Atma Yas Sarvatra Avabhasate. In Atma Bodha also it is said like this. Sada Sarvatropi. Even the Atma which has been all pervading and all the time it is all pervading, but Na Sarvatra Avabhasate. It does not shine everywhere. I mean, you cannot know consciousness as consciousness everywhere. Not in this. Even though it pervades in, consciousness pervades this. But definitely, I am a conscious being. Well, that's enough. So you can know that I, the conscious being, is ultimately this Brahman. One can know this. So it has not manifested anywhere. Buddhi is one where it is recognized as a Sakshi. For you take yourself as a Chidabhasa, well, hold on to Chidabhasa and go to the root of the Chidabhasa. Definitely you will know the Sakshi is, that is my real nature. And so, Annam Pranaha Manaha Buddhi Anandashyati Panchate Koshaha, these five are the koshas. Taihi Avrutaha Swatma, Taihi Avrutaha Atma, Atma Taihi Avrutaha Bhavati. So, because of distraction, Atma is as though covered. Vismritya means because of self-ignorance or caused by self-ignorance. It's a third case. So, caused by self-ignorance or self-disowning, etc. Well, taking self as this bodies, etc. Samsrutim vrajet. Sam plus sru dhatu is there. Sam plus sru. From that word samsara also has come. So sam plus sru means samyak saranam. Samsara. That's how we define. Sam plus sru. Sru means to move. And samyak saranam means easily. One moves very easily from one body to another body, from that body to another body, continuously moves because of identification with the body, ultimately, or these five koshas, definitely. And these koshas has to have worked as a cover for my real nature. I don't know. It has covered my vision, and my vision is totally on the dehas, because basically I is placed in all these dehas, or in all the five layers of personality. So these are the two definitions of kosha. And now what he is going to do is he will define every kosha. What is Annamaya kosha? What is Pranamaya kosha? Etc. etc. This is all part of Shravanam. Well, in Shravanam the methodologies, prakriyas will be there. So teacher employs these methods. That is Shravanam. And will give you the purport of the Shastra. Shravanam means you will know the purport of the Shastra. The Shastra purport is, the subject matter of the Shastra is this. What? Jeev Brahma Aikya. And then he will talk about Mananam, then he will talk about Nididhyasanam, etc. We'll see that. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om.